Welcome everybody to NewsNow's podcast for this week. We've got two folks from Town of Lincoln here, and we're going to be talking about two different initiatives with very different results. Both are super cool for Town of Lincoln, and really one of them is certainly a Niagara West, if not greater, impact. And maybe it's Shannon and Brittany. They can introduce themselves and explain what they do at the municipality.
Wonderful. Thanks for having us, Mike. We really appreciate this opportunity to share some of these good news stories happening in our community and
they are very good news.
Throughout West Niagara. So my name is Brittany Bazylewski. I'm the tourism coordinator for the Town of Lincoln. I've been a long time standing advocate and ambassador of this destination. I've worked in the private sector for many years. So to finally bring a project like this to fruition at the town in this role has kind of been a dream come true for me.
And your project is the new
destination
logo,
branding.
Destination branding, yeah.
For the town. So
right.
With that intro, I'll turn it over to my colleague Shannon to share a little bit as well.
Thanks, Brittany. I'm Shannon McKay, and I'm the Director of Community Services for the Town of Lincoln. We have the pleasure of doing a lot of citizen-facing, citizen-touching activities, and I'm here to talk about our latest project, that being the superbly dynamite and awesome Rotary Park.
It really is.
And I'm really happy to talk about how that came to be and who was involved and how it's a great demonstration of a very successful project.
Team top to bottom.
Team top to bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Brittany, maybe you could just give a little overview on the process that went into developing the logo strategy, which really is a sort of a launching point for the whole initiative of rebranding and putting Lincoln sort of on the destination map for, started out with TVTA and, just maybe go through a couple minutes of that.
Sure. So, this has been a long time coming, this project. So if we wind back for a little bit, this was birthed initially out of the Economic Development Strategic Plan. So, my direct report, Paul Deaney, is the Director of Economic Development and Communications, along with Town Council, Mayor Easton, saw the value in the growth of what was happening in Lincoln's tourism sector. So, from that plan, they have invested heavily in creating a tourism strategy and action plan.
Well, that was all part of bringing TVTA in-house, and it was, almost 2 years ago?
Yeah, so the plan was actually, the tourism strategy and action plan was actually adopted in June of 2020. And since then, our small but mighty team, in conjunction with our local partners in the business community, strategic stakeholders, have really leaned into activating those key priorities. So when we first started looking at, where to start in this implementation plan of activating Lincoln's tourism strategic plan, it was really in setting the foundation of the destination. So how do we do that? We need to put Lincoln on the map. So when we wound those conversations back, we've got a lot of really great standing history and some equity in Lincoln as it stands with our connectivity to the 20 Valley brand. However, when we look at market share, we have in the past not been as competitive as a destination as we should be, recognizing the diversity of our attractions, the attributes Lincoln has to offer. We just weren't breaking through that noise. So by setting the foundation and creating a really strong destination identity that we could leverage in telling our story, especially capitalizing on the brand equity and global brand equity that Niagara has.
A little cachet there.
Yeah, just a little bit of fodder there in the fire when it comes to the tourism landscape. We recognize very quickly by hitching Lincoln's wagon to that Niagara star.
As I said to Mike in an email, I said, hop on those coattails and ride.
Yeah, right.
No need to reinvent the wheel.
Well, there's already there's investment there. There's commitment. There's a level of implied authenticity to that story. So when we're talking about attracting visitors, by leveraging Lincoln and Niagara together, we're already creating a sense of awareness of our sense of place. It's essentially our ability to now tell those micro stories that Lincoln has to offer. Yeah.
And the bench is what creates the whole micro situation, whether it's the wineries or its relationship to the lake, and you get into all the terroir and the temperature situation. Like, it's all very much connected to that as a route.
Most definitely. We are deeply rooted in agriculture in Lincoln. So when you look at some of those iconic kind of comments that we have, or the attributes that we have, whether it's traditional farming, it's grape growing, it's growing hops, we look at, our wellness and ecotourism partners who are deeply rooted in the land. Yeah. There is a strong connection, to the Niagara Escarpment, to that Lake Ontario vista that we as Lincoln own unequivocally, without a doubt, 100%, and can stand behind that narrative without any contradiction, that's not contrived. It really is who we are, and it's our sense of place.
Well, when you talk about rooted, like, you know, some of those families that go back generations, like the George family, or, you know, the growers that they know that land like nobody's business, every nook and cranny of tons of acreage and its characteristics, and, you know, it's what the municipality is at its core. And so it's pretty cool to see that also get drafted into a modern, forward-thinking marketing plan.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
And, you know, looking at the diversity of Lincoln's tourism sector, trying to find a narrative or an identity that would allow us to tell everyone's story equitably, and creating a, dare I say, a tent big enough for all of us to, you know, be able to share that story. The Niagara Benchlands was it. You know, the plurality of the word alone already implies that there's more to discover than just one thing in Lincoln.
It's like an umbrella situation. What's under the umbrella?
Exactly. And we know that our visitors don't see our soft municipal boundaries. And what could look as a challenge, I think, from the outside looking in, is actually an opportunity for us to even further hyper-locate folks once they've arrived here in Lincoln. You know, to tell the story of Camden, to tell the story of Rockaway, Beamsville, Vineland, Jordan, and all of those other little microcosms or micro-destinations in between. We've really given ourselves the ability to scale this brand identity and this visual identity as Lincoln grows over time, because every single one of those key priorities we identified in that action plan, workforce development, job creation, investment attraction, this Benchlands name and destination identity is the tool and resource we need to equip ourselves to start activating those priorities.
Yeah. So maybe if you could just explain the mechanism, and, you know, you might be hesitant to name some of the people, like, because I know that there was quite a committee of, you know, tourism-based or business-based people involved, and you might not want to leave somebody out. Usually that's the problem with naming off a list and you leave off one poor person. But, you know, so just maybe the structure of what it took. It wasn't, you know, two people sitting in a room.
Not at all.
You know, that kind of thing. You know, just speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, so in the 11-month process, one of the very first things we did to activate this project was we actually created a committee of our peers in the tourism industry in Lincoln. So we made sure to have representation from our accommodations sector, craft beverage, brewery, culinary, wellness, ecotourism, you name it. We wanted to make sure that all the voices that were going to be impacted by this development were sitting at the table to help guide this strategy. So we created what we call our tourism strategy and implementation team. In addition to that steering committee, obviously regular check-ins, you know, with our regional tourism office. We're also checking in with the TVTA board as well, so the 20 Valley Tourism Association board. But much like what the town always is insistent on, all the way along that development process, there were check-ins with the wider stakeholder base at large. So that's local Lincoln businesses, our community residents. Every single time we came to, you know, a naming recommendation, we were talking about positioning statements. We wanted to A/B test what some of the visual logos could look like. Every single moment along the way, we paused that development and allowed that time and scale and scope to have those candid conversations, to collect that feedback and let our community get involved in the space that made the most amount of sense to them.
Well, I'm sure the people involved appreciated that level of communication, because it doesn't, you know, let's just say it doesn't always work that way.
Well, you know, a great destination, Mike, is really a sum of, you know, those attractions and the amazing people we have. And the one thing we identified about Lincoln that actually arose organically throughout the process was we're the home of wanderers welcome. Our open heart and open door kind of policy, our residents, our local winemakers and tastemakers are our biggest ambassadors and champions. We would be remiss if we did not ignite and activate these people as part of this plan.
Sure.
Because at the end of the day, it's not me standing on the other end of that tasting bar. It's these amazing folks, you know, that come together to create this identity of Lincoln that sell this story in. And if they're not passionate and engaged, you know, the entire process and the project's moot to begin with. So it was all, you know, it's grassroots. You start from the inside out.
Yep. So you've got the base, you got the theme, and I know it was mentioned that the, you know, the coloring and there's some tweaks to be done, etc. But Maybe you could explain what's next with that process.
Yeah, so we're just in the process right now of kind of refining just some, like to your point, like some of the color palettes, ensuring that we're compliant with AODA standards, making sure our brand is fully accessible and can be used by everyone, again, equitably. But from here, we're now off the bench, if I can use the colloquial, and we are ready to run. So it's going to be all about implementation. We need to get a really great consumer-facing website up and off the ground. We also want to protect this name so nobody else can ever duplicate it or try to emulate it in the way that Lincoln owns. So we're going to go capture that place brand, obviously trademark, ASAP. Then it's about rolling it out to our community. We need, like I said, our local businesses to be our biggest heroes. So how do we arm them with tools like, really great in-store retail pieces like point of purchase materials? How do we give them pop-up banners? How do we have their staff, wearing maybe Benchlands apparel to activate this? It's getting the house in order in Lincoln. And then in 2022, when we've got everybody messaged properly here, our team is, our community is ready to champion this brand like we know they can. We'll start going out to consumers and start re-envisioning, that story of Lincoln that they once knew. It's been everybody's key destination forever. It's not that we're unknown. Now it's our ability to tell you more about what's here and how you can do more in this destination when you come and visit Lincoln.
So if you could time frame it a bit for me. So what might the public expect to see or hear from next in terms of process?
Oh, for sure. So I think by way of a consumer, product facing, everyone's looking forward to, festivals and events and new touring programs coming online.
For sure.
Yeah. Understatement, I'm sure, Mike, of the century.
Yeah.
You can expect to see those tangible experiences coming into market next spring. Over the next few months, so December, January, February, you'll start to see some of that, forward-facing consumer marketing coming out. Us telling that story, proudly standing on our soapbox and shouting, what Niagara Benchlands has to offer in Lincoln. And then from there, it's really digging in to getting our local destination marketing organization up and running sustainably again and diving into that effort next.
Cool. Mm-hmm. Is there anything else that you want to touch on or mention that we haven't covered?
I think, Mike, we just need to say thank you to our local community. Change is never easy at any point in time, but I think, the level of alignment, engagement, the enthusiasm we're seeing from our local partners has really kept that tourism strategy and implementation team going. It keeps igniting our council and Mayor Easton, and, it's what keeps our team ticking every day to keep looking for those small wins. We need to be extremely competitive coming out of this post-pandemic recovery.
Yep.
And this is just one way, we can set Lincoln on an equitable footing and the rest of this market share in tourism to really, make an economic impact. We want to see cash registers ringing in Lincoln.
Great. On to topic 2. And just to summarize that, but just tip that one forward. There you go. You mentioned just about buy-in and enthusiasm. I think as long as the municipality is, kind of got an open door communication policy, you'll invite that buy-in because people will feel that they're being listened to and their points are taken and it creates that team atmosphere from the bottom up and you get lots of buy-in.
For sure.
Now, this beauty, which I went over to see on Sunday, and I've seen some of the preliminary drawings and such. So this was a sea of kids and parents. It was funny to see, the parents in the seating area, their kids off running. You could just see the moms just, oh, thank God, we could come here and park ourselves and chat. And they had coffee and thermoses and stuff, and the kids got hours of stuff to do and never do the same thing twice. It was really cool. There was probably 30-40 kids with bikes and skateboards at least, and probably 450 to 500 kids all through the park. And I was noting in my column, so this is all chaos. I'm walking back to my car and there's two little boys sitting at the very edge of the foam rubbery surface, and they're just playing with sticks. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? They were 5 years old, just quiet, doing their thing, and it was just chaos. The contrast was funny, anyway. But that facility, maybe you could have, again, start at the beginning. Mm-hmm. How did the process work? in speaking with Mike, the CAO, he mentioned that, I said, was there a template that came from it? Did you draft off something that you saw? Like, where did the ideas come? And he said it was basically baked in-house with lots of input, different levels, and, maybe you just explain that.
Sure. So it really started back even before we finished our Parks and Rec and Culture Master Plan, which was approved by Council in 2019. And it started at the very grassroots level many, many years ago with the identification of wanting a skate park.
Yep,
I
remember,
Lincoln,
2018.
Wanting a skate park in Lincoln. And so we actually went out and did a bit of a feasibility study to see where in Lincoln, with lands
Which
that we
is this,
had.
anybody who's seeing this home,
That's right.
this
So
corner
skate
over
park
here?
is over to the right, and then pump track is to the
Oh,
left
sorry, yeah,
there.
yep.
To see where the best location would be in Lincoln. And so we looked at things like close proximity to washrooms, proximity to where if something happened, you could go in and, get a Band-Aid if somebody fell down and cut themselves, or report if somebody injured themselves. So very quickly it became that this green space, which that's what it was, would be the ideal location for that.
So location, this is the Fleming Center over here. And I believe this is still Alyssa Drive. I know it is off of
Serena and
Serena,
Melissa.
sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Serena and
So
Melissa.
this is the front lawn of the Fleming
That's
Center, which was the original Lincoln Fairgrounds.
That's correct.
So that was the other cool thing, to see what was a phenomenal tradition going back 100 plus years in the town as a highly used recreational use that was the heart of the community for a century, to be a incredibly different and modern heart of the community in a completely different way.
Absolutely. And you hit it on the head. It really feels like the heart of the community. And so when we set out...
You immediately see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We started with our Parks and Rec and Culture Master Plan. So we did a lot of community engagement on that. We did public information session throughout various facilities around town. We did an online survey, and we really asked the community what they wanted in the community, not just in Beamsville, but in every corner of the community, from splash pad to action park to exercise equipment to you name it. And they told us what they wanted. And so we put together a Parks and Rec and Culture Master Plan, and in it are 90 recommendations that really guide us as a team in the development of our public and open spaces. So that was the beginning. And then we started with some intense community engagement on this particular location. And what we did is we went out into this park space and we set up some tents, and we had staff out there, and we invited the community to come out, people who lived in the area, people who visited the Fleming Center that might come in for hockey or public skating or other programming, to come out to the park, be inspired. So we had some inspiration boards of you could have, or wouldn't it be cool to see? And then you tell us. And that's exactly what the community did. And we firmly believe as a team that people make parks. It's not about us as staff saying what needs to go into a particular space. It's the people who are going to drive to this space, use this space, walk this space, visit this space, that are going to tell us what they'd like to see. And that's exactly what happened. And our one overarching imperative was to ensure that this park had something for absolutely everyone.
Yeah.
From passive space, junior play structure, senior play structure, outdoor exercise equipment, the first for us in Lincoln.
Yep.
I hope you picked up, we mimicked the sort of walking track that we have
just
inside
tan and
Fleming.
chill over here.
We mimicked the walking track that we have inside Fleming,
Right.
outside, by making sure we had a great loop. We have wonderful pathways from all directions coming into the park. Inclusivity, accessibility, universal design principles, these were all paramount and important to us.
Yep.
We consulted with seniors, we consulted with children, we consulted with youth, and it really came together beautifully.
Yeah.
beautifully. It's
And like you might not be able to see if you're watching, on your laptop, but these trees in 10 years or so will fill in and
That's right.
and give some of the apparatus and the heart of the park some shade too.
And we still have on this particular shot, because this is a drone shot, you can't see the butterfly garden, which we're going to be finishing off, which is more on the southwest corner of the park, sort of just off the photo there from the skate park. And we've got another
the creek's running along here, right?
Right, and we've got another shade structure that's down in this corner that you can't see, that's also off of this image. We've got great quiet spaces, very calming spaces. We have a wonderful open green space, so you can still throw the frisbee and kick the soccer ball. We plan to activate this space, so bring out outside programming. We plan to hold events out here with the community, engage our community. It's just a really beautiful
It's a new heart
space. Yeah,
It is.
It is. I drive by just to see the people and the kids smiling. I've walked through and talked to the kids. We've got lots of low-level elements. Today there were kids crawling through the log when I was out there.
Yeah.
Musical elements, sensory elements. We're
These
just
little
thrilled with how they
honeycomb
came
things,
out.
that's the photo I put on the front page.
That's right. And the
There's these
kids
two
were in
little
it.
girls
Yeah.
curled up in there kind
Yeah.
of thing. That was pretty cute. Yeah.
Yeah. And
But just like in terms of what you're saying about walking through and talking to people, like it is just with what's gone on, like it's been a long time since I've seen anything with just blind positivity, and you could just feel the energy and the excitement from the kids. And of course, it just opened Friday, technically,
did,
right?
it
Like
did. And
it's
that
been
was
done for a while. Maybe explain that, because you can see the fence in the
Sure.
shot here.
Sure. So that was a really last-minute wonderful surprise for a Friday. We actually just passed our ESA on our electrical, and right away we knew, let's get this fence down. And our contractor wasted no
Timed
time.
with another wave
And
of COVID opening
right.
at 2:00, the whole 9 yards, right?
And people just went into the park. They just
Well, I knew there was some static about, like you're like,
That's right.
let me in.
That's
I
right.
don't. So
the
there was a
community
lot of
was very patient.
anticipation.
Was very patient with us, because for all intents and purposes, it looked to have been done
Sure, yeah, I understand.
several weeks ago. We
Yeah.
had deficiencies that we wanted to address, and we knew that once we opened it, it would be very difficult to shut it down.
You're never gonna close
if
that
we
park.
had to address a deficiency.
Yeah.
So we really wanted to make sure everything was done. And our contractor was great at dealing with the deficiencies, and still there's a few things that are being dealt with, but we're so happy that we were able to open it for the weekend. We knew that the good weather was coming, and we knew that people would be able to be out there.
Normally, I
and use
wouldn't
this
ask who a contractor or consultant was, but maybe you might want to mention who they are.
Yes, Stevensville Lawn Service in Niagara here, and they were really great to work with. They took a lot of pride in what they did, and they worked hard to meet our targets. Our original targets were mid-September, and if it weren't for some of the deficiencies and we had some delays on the lighting, which was a COVID supply chain issue, we would have been open. We would have hit those targets, but we're really happy that it's done and the way it's turned out, and the things that were addressed. And we can't wait for everybody to see it and comment and keep telling us what they think of it, and to visit. When I was there this morning, you could tell there were sort of groups, maybe childcare groups that were coming out.
Sure.
So it wasn't so busy. Kids were a bit younger, and they were everywhere. They were everywhere, and it was so wonderful. It's the smiles that are really.
I think they'll come out in the
priceless.
rain.
Yeah.
I don't think the weather will matter.
No, you're right.
I just it's just so cool. So now, when we were saying earlier that it's cool, it should be, because it was expensive. Mm-hmm. But the price tag was just under $3.9 million. With, as I understood it, about $300,000 was, there was $100,000 naming rights from the Rotary Club of Lincoln.
That's right.
A little over $80,000 in fundraising, and then
Private
some
donations.
loose change from the municipality, $100,000 or so. But the lion's share, and I want to say about 3.5, was from development charges.
That
and
is correct.
that's not, I guess it's through the municipality, but it's not municipal tax roll money.
Correct.
So that, in a large sense, this is the community benefit of all this housing that you see in here.
That's right.
Done through Homes by DeSantis, and which was at least 2, if not 3 phases. I forget now, but it's been done over so many years. But there's always a lot of concern with development these days. But there are, development is good. And when it's done nice, and that's a great neighborhood. And again, all that development is part of the fairground. That was the fairgrounds project initially, before it was named in any way, shape, or form, and before the Fleming Center was done or any of that. So there are benefits to
There are indeed benefits
to development, and that's one that's going to last a long time.
That's right. When you can make those investments back into the community,
Yeah.
and the community sees that. And this, for a lot of those residents, this is a very long time coming.
Yeah.
So,
Well, because it's happening right in front of them. When you have a high traffic area like the Fleming Center, and you're driving by every day,
That's
it would
right.
seem like it's happening in slow motion.
that's right.
But getting it done during COVID, you mentioned supply chain and stuff, which can be chaos depending on one thing's missing, and you've got to hold up 3 or 4 behind
That's
it.
right.
No, it's just great top to bottom.
No, it was well done from top to bottom. It's definitely a success story and a great case study for a great project success.
Yeah.
That we hope we can continue when we build out other parks, and we do have plans to build out other parks in the community. So
Great. Anything else you want to mention on it, or thank yous, or?
come out and visit. Thank you to the team. Thank you to the contractor and the landscape architect and everybody who worked together. It was a wonderful team and community initiative and effort, and everybody should be very, very proud. And thank you to our funders like Rotary Club and the private donors. So we're thrilled.
Absolutely, that's all part of the team. Without the money, you don't get where you're going.
That's right.
Well, that's great. I appreciate your time and coming in to talk about these 2 projects, which will really move the municipality forward on 2 very different fronts. One very much economic and business driving, and one extremely social and just plain fun.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Come out and try it out.
Yeah, I'll start swinging on the jungle gym or something. Anyway, thanks for coming out. I appreciate your time
Thanks,
very
Mike.
much.
We really appreciate it.
And thanks for watching, everybody.